Guess where I am? That's perfect. Hello, I'm Alexa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm at California College of the Arts. It's an art and design school here in San Francisco, and I happened to attend here 4 years ago and studied in the graphic design department. Today I'm with James Yu.
Hello.
And I'm super excited to be here.
I'm super excited to be here as well. Thanks for having me.
And we're here to talk about how to get into design school.
Awesome.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's do it. James Yu grew up in Oregon and has an MFA in creative writing. He's been with admissions at CCA for almost 2 years now and loves advocating for the value of creative education. James, thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Happy to be here.
Let's start off by talking a little bit more about what your role is in admissions here at CCA.
Great. So I am an admissions counselor, so that means I do many different things. I review applications for prospective students, but I also meet with students who are interested in studying art and design. I go to various art schools and fairs. One really great thing that we and a bunch of other very good art schools do is we go on the road every year for National Portfolio Day. And National Portfolio Day takes place at a variety of different art schools around the United States. And so during that time, students are free to bring their portfolio and share their work with different counselors from a variety of very good schools. And during that time, I also will visit certain high schools in the area as well.
Does that mean CCA hosts one, and if you happen to be a high schooler in like the San Francisco Bay Area, you would come to CCA as a high schooler?
Absolutely. Okay. So we trade off with SFAI, which is the other nonprofit art school in the Bay Area. But then it'll also happen in Southern California at Art Center, for example, or Otis, in the Midwest at SAIC, on the East Coast at Parsons and Pratt, and what have you. So it moves around the entire United States, and there's a variety of different schools. They all offer something a little bit different, but the schools that participate in this program are legitimate and do have something good to offer.
What types of programs do art design schools typically offer?
So it kind of depends on each school, but broadly speaking, it offers fine art programs. These are going to be painting and drawing, illustration, ceramics, photography, but then it'll also have usually design programs as well. On our side, we offer architecture, interior design, industrial design, interaction design, and graphic design as some of the examples. And those majors tend to be very popular with us because we are in the Bay Area after all.
Okay, great. So it sounds like there's a lot of different programs people can choose from, but how does someone choose which one they want to take?
Well, I think it requires a lot of thinking and evaluation of the work that you're already making. Obviously, at the high school level, you may be exposed to more of the traditional mediums such as painting, drawing, ceramics, photography. You might not have as much exposure to, say, architecture or interaction design or industrial design. You may, if you're lucky and are at a school that offers those programs, but if you don't, you may not exactly be sure that you want to study those majors. The great thing about coming to a school like CCA is that you don't have to make a decision right away. You come in, you can apply thinking you want to do painting and drawing, and then in that first year here at CCA, we have a core program. So you get exposed to a variety of different ways of making everything from drawing to two-dimensional art to three-dimensional art to even four-dimensional art, which is multimedia and video. And so as you get exposed to these different ways of making, you might find out that you have a passion that you never really had the chance to explore before.
So it sounds like when someone applies to CCA, they're just applying to the school. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you apply to the school, you don't apply to the program. That's not always the case with every school. We do require a portfolio though, but it can be a portfolio that doesn't necessarily have to be in the field that you want to or hope to enter.
I'd love to talk more about how does someone just apply for a design school like CCA? What is that process like?
You can apply through the Common application. We also have our own CCA application.
Wait, what's the Common application?
The Common application? The Common application is an application that is used by a wide range of schools, not only art and design schools, but it's basically a standardized platform in which you can submit your essay, upload your transcripts, fill in some information, biographical information about yourself, and that's something that's used by pretty much all schools in the United States.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I don't know if that was a thing when I was in school. Maybe it was. It's been a long time.
We also offer the CCA application as well, and the one advantage of applying through the CCA application is that there's only one essay that you need to write, whereas if you apply through the common application, it's going to ask you to write 2.
Got it.
So there is a slight advantage there.
Okay. And it sounds like the common application is probably this like separate website. They would then maybe select CCA within that like product.
Right, absolutely.
Right? Okay.
But you can access that through our admissions page.
Oh, okay.
And which we'll link to later.
Yes, but it is an art and design school, which means there's a portfolio required to apply, right? So
Right.
how does that get submitted?
Right, so we use SlideRoom, which is an online platform that several schools will use, and even artist residencies and various organizations that are reviewing candidate portfolios. So as a freshman, you'll submit 10 to 15 slides, and during that process, you'll upload images of your work. When you upload images of your work, it's very important that you document that work carefully, make sure it's under good lighting, and provide some information about the medium used and a little summary about what your work is trying to do.
So one of the main reasons why I wanted to meet with you and have this discussion was because someone reached out to me on Instagram asking for advice on how to create a portfolio to apply to design school. And I thought that was such an interesting question, and I evaluate portfolios all the time. I have basically zero experience evaluating portfolios of high school students, and so I wanted to ask you, what is that process like? What are you looking for? How can someone create a portfolio that's going to get them into a school like CCA?
I think maybe the expectation is a little bit different because there hasn't been as much exposure, say, to design. And I would say in general, there is much less exposure to design at the high school level. So, students can apply with more traditional work, such as paintings. They might apply with photography, or if they have taken graphic design, maybe they've taken AP 2D design, that's great. The thing that really you want to be thinking about is, what am I trying to say with the work that I'm making? The difference between a really outstanding portfolio and a good portfolio and a not so good portfolio is pretty clear, and the difference really comes from that question of, is this work that I would be making if no one was telling me to make it? And I think that's really an important mindset to get into as an applicant, because when you're in high school, you're trying to learn basic skills, you're trying to learn techniques, which are very important, but at that same time, you got to think about how to push beyond just the requirements and a rubric that your teacher is giving you. Because once you enter into the real world as an artist or designer, you really have to show something special about who you are. You're not getting as many parameters. You have to think creatively. So show me how you think creatively, show me what you care about, and show me how you want to change the world in a better way. And I would say most students don't generally have a really strong design portfolio. That doesn't mean don't submit that if you really love design and you're passionate about it, and you've been watching amazing YouTube videos, and you've been doing tutorials, and you've been taking community college classes, or really seeking out opportunities to get your hands in the muck of things. But at the same time, as you go about that, try to let go of the fact that it's only about aesthetics. Aesthetics without considered thought doesn't make for good design.
My next question is a little bit more specific towards UX and product design, since that's my background. And I guess I was just wondering what your perspective would be on if someone has this interest, like they know that they're interested in UX design in high school, and they want to submit a portfolio that matches that interest. What do you think that would look like? Have you evaluated these portfolios?
Yes, very rarely, but it does happen.
Cool.
Sometimes it happens with transfer students who have maybe had the chance to take some of those classes. But at the same time, with UX design, there's so much documentation and material out there, whether that's books or whether that's web tutorials. Adobe and various other companies have products such as Adobe XD. Get started playing around with those tools and start making some wireframes, and think about some concepts that you have for bettering the human experience. And in that process, as you develop your portfolio, think about how you're going to show what it is about that process in terms of how you're thinking about why this interaction solves a particular problem or creates an efficiency. So you can use the slides that you upload to show images and wireframes, and then you can also put in like little text to kind of show us your thought process. And I think that's really important because sometimes people will submit just things that seem visually appealing but then don't really give me a sense of, well, what is this really offering?
A lot of the early stage thinking and ideation that's involved in UX design is not necessarily like pretty pictures. It's not necessarily a lot of like drawings per se. It's like a lot of thinking and potentially just like getting your thoughts out of your head and onto the paper. If you're thinking about putting together a portfolio for like if you're interested in UX design, which is actually called, the program here is interaction design. So it's more title confusion there.
Right, and if you go and take a tour and you pass the interaction design students, you'll see that a lot of the work that is up a lot of the time is actually sticky notes on walls where they're going through the ideation phase. So don't be afraid of showing that ideation as you're thinking about solving some sort of problem or creating some kind of product.
So why would someone want to go to a design school versus a normal public university?
You're in this environment where you're with so many creative people. It's not just the people that are in your building, it's everyone in the building, and everyone is studying something that matters to them. And so you really build these magical connections not only in class with people in your major, but also people outside your major. If you're a graphic designer, you might have a friend who's a photographer and they might help you develop material and collateral that you can work together in order to create a cool product. And that kind of thing happens both ways. If you're a graphic designer, you might be helping a friend who's a fine artist who needs to develop their website. And so this kind of give and take just happens automatically, and that's sort of where a lot of cool things happen, and that's where you build a lot of skills and sort of think beyond your specific area of study and consider all the things that you can do. You don't have to define yourself by the major you're in here. And I think that's something that is common across different programs.
I love that. I think that what I loved about going to design school was that most of the work that you're doing here is project-based. And then to your point, it's like you have friends in all these different majors, and so everyone at the school is a creator in some way or another, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity to really understand what it means to collaborate with different types of creators, and people are focused in different expertise. And so I think going to a art and design school it was such a great experience. And those relationships with the people you meet at school, they definitely last past when you graduate. So on that note, what would you say makes attending CCA different than one of the other design schools?
I think you can't beat our location. We're in San Francisco. We're at the center of technology and design. We have so many different companies, and we have great teachers who are working professionals that are coming from these great companies. And so you're at the cutting edge and you're learning from the best. Whether you're an animator and learning from Pixar artists, or whether you're learning design thinking from someone who works at IDEO, you have this really great opportunity to understand what's happening now and what's going to happen in 5, 10, 15 years from now.
I think I would say the same thing. Having CCA being in the Bay Area and San Francisco makes a really big difference. I know it especially made an impact on my life because I did a number of internships that were all local here in San Francisco, and I mean that energy, being able to like work with some of these companies, like tech companies, which is what I wanted to get into after, while being in school, like that made a really big difference.
There is so much talent and so many alums who are working in important roles in important companies around the greater Bay Area, and so you have an in automatically, and your teachers, since they're working professionals, are bringing their friends in to do reviews and critiques. And if you make good work and if you build a strong portfolio, that's going to get noticed.
There's 3 people right now working at Zendesk, which is the company I work at, who are from CCA. Okay, let's say someone's ready, they want to apply to CCA. Actually, let's say they already applied to CCA. When do they hear back?
So we're rolling admissions, so we try and respond to you as soon as possible. Our priority deadline is February 1, so if you apply around that time, we do get a lot of applications, so it can take a month or two, but in general, we try and get a decision back under a month.
Oh,
That's our goal.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
And let's say someone hears back, it's good news, they're accepted to CCA. What are next steps after that?
Take a tour, read up on the majors, look at our faculty. We offer tours Monday through Friday on both campuses, and so you definitely want to check those out. And ask some questions. We also are really happy to chat and even connect you with professors who will be able to talk more specifically about the programs and the curriculum. And that's what's really nice about being at this small environment. You do really have those professors who can talk to you about why you might want to come here.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Actually, there was one thing I did want to mention, and it's that you should spend some time thinking about your essay. I think the essay is a place where people will kind of skim over, and especially if you have a great portfolio, you might think, let my art stand for itself. That's great, but I also want to know who you are and what you care about, and whether that's artists and designers that you're obsessed with, or whether that's a future goal that you have. All that information shows me that you've done research on our school, that you have a sense of who you are as a maker, an artist, and a designer, and those things are really important to you moving forward.
Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I feel like I already know so much more about if I ever wanted to, apply to undergrad again, about how that goes. I'm going to include a number of links in the description below. I think that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, you should subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!